So Liz Truss, remember her, the shortest-serving Prime Minister in history, the person who apparently, I think there's two sides to this story, but she's accused of crashing the pound.
Well, there was a lot of financial skullduggery going on before.
There was a lot of financial skullduggery, and I think, you know, I'm not the biggest Liz Truss fan in the world, but I think she's taken a lot of flack for that, and I don't think it was entirely her responsibility. Well,
at an event this morning, she's going to launch a new movement called Popular Conservatism, and it's to try to rally right-wing Tory MPs ahead of the election, which we know is coming later this year.
But this is, I find it a bit baffling because Popular Conservatism couldn't find a more unpopular spokesperson, according to polls, if they tried. Morning,
Andrew,
Chris.
yes, welcome back to here in Westminster Morning. With me now is Nigel Farage, who's the honorary president of the Reform Party and also, of course, a presenter on GBNews. Why are you here?
Well, two reasons. Number one, of course, is GBNews. I'll be covering this tonight. Secondly, I'm interested in ideas. You know, I didn't spend 25 years in UKIP without being interested in ideas. And I have a sense that a lot of what's going to get said today by Liz Truss and others will be very popular amongst Conservative activists, Conservative voters, and a broader country as well. And yet, have a look around this room. How many current serving Conservative members of Parliament are here? I think less than a handful. And so the point really is that whilst I agree with many of the things, not all, but many of the things that Liz Truss is saying, within the Conservative Parliamentary Party, she's part of an embattled minority.
Are you joining this group?
No. No, I'm not joining this group. I'm interested in the ideas, and I think after the Conservatives get thrashed at the next election, which, by the way, they thoroughly deserve, then I think maybe, finally, we'll get a reuniting of the right in British politics. It was briefly presented to the electorate in December 2019. It won them an 80-seat majority. The problem was the Conservative Party never really believed in the things they were putting to the electorate. Now, I think a big part of this is just how well Reform do. Every vote Reform gets makes a realignment of some kind more likely.
It makes Labour more likely to be in government.
I think Labour have won anyway. I mean, I think this argument, oh, don't vote Reform, you'll let Labour in, forget it. Labour are going to win anyway.
Well, Andrew and Bev, that's Nigel Farage there, the honorary president of Reform and also presenter on GBNews.
Fascinating, fascinating. Right, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Nigel.
And Nigel will be talking, of course, on GBNews tonight.
7 o'clock. Look, she is a divisive character, Liz Truss, and I think she is the butt of a lot of jokes because of what happened under her short premiership. But it seems that within the Conservative Party, she does still wield a lot of power, influence and popularity amongst this very small group. But who are they?
Yeah, morning, Andrew. Morning, Bev. Yeah, more than that, it's about the grassroots. That's where Liz Truss finds her voice, and we saw that at last year's Tory party conference. Well, it's Tuesday, time for another group of Tories concerned about the direction of the government. With me now is Mark Littlewood, who's the director of Popular Conservatism. Mark, you're the former Director General of the Institute for Economic Affairs. Why are you here, and what is PopCon?
This is an enormous project, and, you know, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat and a bit of a pit in my stomach having undertaken this huge task, Chris. But listen, this is what we're about. Some people have said to me, are you mad setting up an organisation where the two words are popular and conservatism? But I actually think conservatism is popular, can be made popular amongst vast swathes of the electorate. But the vision that we in the PopCon movement share is there needs to be a major institutional overhaul of the British machinery of government. If you like, the system is pretty much rigged at the moment against achieving Conservative ends. We've had, nearly 14 years of Conservative-led governments, but taxes higher than at any point since the 1940s. Government spending at its highest in our lifetimes. Not many people saying how great public services are. Debt and deficit have become the norm. Regulations come out every day. So we've got to change the infrastructure. There's too many quangos, too much unaccountable authority. We need a restoration and a reset of how Britain works.
But as you say there, you as a Conservative movement have had 14 years. Do you need this group because the centre isn't listening to the base? Is that what the point is?
Look, the Conservatives is a massive family, and We want to actually engage on the grassroots side. There are famously, supposedly, 5 different families of Conservative parliamentarians. I think the media call it the 5 families to bring up echoes of the 5 mafia families in New York in the 1930s. We're not trying to replicate or replace that in any way. We're trying to reach out to the many tens of thousands, millions of people who share a Conservative vision across the country and shine a light on the way that Britain's governmental system doesn't work. And if you don't fix that governmental system, trying to get to lower taxes or less regulation or more efficient government spending is essentially an exercise in pushing water uphill. You might get a bit of the way there, but not much.
Is this a vehicle for Nigel Farage and the like of him?
No, it's not a vehicle for Nigel Farage or indeed for any other individual. Indeed, I've made it plain in the newspapers over the weekend. I think Rishi Sunak should be considered immovable as the leader of the Conservative Party. This isn't any kind of shadow campaign. It's only about the ideas, which you'll hear at our launch starting in, just about half an hour, Chris.
And it's open to MPs and members to join. And how many members and MPs do you have so far?
Well, we haven't sought particularly to recruit MPs. They're actually the target that we want to sort of influence. But you can see behind me the room's filling up nicely here. We could have got more than 1,000 people to this event. I've had to reluctantly turn away people. I didn't realise how popular conservatism might be. We've already got many thousands who've signed up on our database. That's only a very, very small step. I think it's time that there is a popular conservative grassroots movement in the UK making this case. And although we're launching in Westminster today, in the heart of the Westminster bubble, we'll be taking our message out right across the country in the weeks and months to come.
But you won't be standing a candidate as an election. You're not a rival to the Tory party in that sense.
No, we're within the Conservative family, completely within. This is not a separate political party. It's not a vehicle for anybody's leadership campaign. It's trying to get a Conservative vision across in the Conservative manifesto for what's an election year, of course, Chris.
Well, thank you, Mark. I think, Andrew and Bev, you've got a question I can put to Mark Littlewood for you.
I'm really interested in this, actually, Christopher. How are these guys different to these new Conservatives, the Suella Braverman allies, the Miriam Cates, the Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Danny Kruger? What's the difference between those 2 right-leaning Conservative groups?
Mark, Bev Turner, our presenter, is asking me to ask you, what's the difference between you and the new Conservatives?
I think the new there's a plethora of different groups here. What makes us unique is this focus that I just said to you, Chris, that there needs to be massive institutional reform in Britain. It's not about Conservative ends, it's about changing the machinery of government. And I think we're unique in putting that forward loud and clear.
Well, Mark Littlewood, thank you, the head of the new Popular Conservatism.